Hey folks, welcome back, another Pawn Masters video, and as usual at the beginning of the month, we, sort of look at all the new units as a whole and sort of just first impression wise, right, sort of evaluate how they are, right, against each other, right, and then at the end of the month, we'll after actually trying them out and actually using them, we'll evaluate them again and in their respective, I guess, roles, and see, what the difference was, I guess, right? Which is fun. So, anyways, as usual, like I mentioned before, this is not a, which unit you should pull for priority list or whatever, right? Because again, there's a lot of different, things that go into that, right? How great a unit is, how useful it is in this role, how saturated that role is, right? So yeah, anyways, let's do this. Obviously, yeah, like I mentioned every time, completely subjective, just my opinion, right? If you disagree, that's fine, I don't care. All right, let's start from the top. I usually start from the bottom. Let's start from the top this time. There's basically two tiers, right? I'd say there's two tiers. There's two that are clearly better than the other two, right? Although I'd say none of these are bad, right? Like last month, the units were kind of, iffy, right? There were some good ones. Obviously, Leafeon is fantastic, right? But outside of Leafeon, the other units are kind of iffy. But this month, all these units are definitely good, right? I don't really think any of them are like bad at all, right? So there's that. Anyways, starting from the top, this one's a bit tough. But I do think I like Jasmine a bit more. I think I do like Jasmine a bit more, right? Jasmine is just a solid, special attack buffer, right? You buff crit, you can max crit, right, with Team Sharp entry, and you can max special defense, and then you can max, special attack as well, right, which is fantastic. Over here, and then you also have some extra on the grid, if I could find there it is, ramp up, right? So you get like +2 special attack every time you use your training move, right? Like your buffing crit anyways with that. So yeah, it's basically kind of like a Xerneas, except much faster as a buffer than Xerneas, right? Because Xerneas, the biggest downside with Xerneas is you have to sync with Xerneas, right? And Xerneas doesn't have 6REX yet. But with Jasmine over here, you don't really need to sync with Xerneas, and you basically get all the buffs that Xerneas gets minus the speed, on top of also buffing crit, which is obviously one of the most important stats to buff, right? And yeah, again, the only thing she doesn't really buff offensively for special damage heals is speed, which is it's a very good stat, right? Which is why well, if she had speed buff, she'd be, very much OP. She's still very good, right? She's still definitely top tier. But yeah, there are a lot of scenarios where you probably want to use something like a Sabrina or whatever over her, right? Just because of the extra speed buffs. There's just so many great multipliers that rely on speed, plus speed helps you run heavy gauge team comps, right? Generally heavy gauge team comps do result you in very high damage per turns. But yeah, she's really good special defensively as well as a tank. You got a 1 gauge spam over here, right? And have X regen all, which is nice. Just like really good stuff all around, right? Move gauge refresh 9 on that 1 gauge spam, with mind games debuffing the opponent's special defense, right? Just a really strong, powerful special buffer, right? So yeah, that's that. Next one would be Diantha, right? The reason why I do like Jasmine a bit better than Diantha, just because I value, supports a bit more, and especially special supports, because special supports are a bit more rare than like physical supports. We have like a lot of physical supports, right? There's like, Hilbert, there's like Lieutenant Surge, Bugsy, like there's so many physical supports, not that many special supports, and in general, supports are a bit more universal, right? in terms of usage than just damage dealers. Although this is a pretty universal damage dealer as well, even though she's fighting type. But she could also help your team out as well, right? In terms of debuffing the opponent's defenses, and she hits very, very hard, right? Her secret sword hits super hard. Her sync nuke nukes very, very hard as well, right? Once you debuff the opponent's defenses. And yeah, just really overall pretty self-sufficient damage dealer, right? That could again also help your team out a lot, very, very fast as well. We already talked about Diana Keldeo in depth a bit more earlier today, right? So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but like I mentioned before, she's very, very, very good. So yeah, after that, I'd say there's a bit of a drop off before these two. These two are, both of them are good, right? I wouldn't say neither of them are bad, but both of them definitely do have some glaring weaknesses. Personally, I'd say I like Hilda a bit more, right? I like Hilda a bit more. Although again, it's really hard to decide. But there's a few things that I do like, right? First of all, her damage is pretty good, right? She does like around single target wise, right? Does around how much Aerodactyl, right, does, and you guys know Aerodactyl hits pretty hard for rock type damage dealers, right? On Diamond Storm, and yeah, Diamond Storm, that's, you get swag bag on Diamond Storm, you get +2 defense every time you attack with Diamond Storm would be fantastic. And you get speed buffs are here with 300 speed base, max out crit on this as well, right? And yeah, Tough Cookie plus Diamond Storm plus swag bag is a very, very nice synergy combo over there with herself. Super Sinker is nice, I guess. Towering Forces is really, really good for sync nuke wise, right? And yeah, Double Down 5, more sync nuke multipliers. Fast Track 9 is really good as well, right? So yeah, just really, really ramming speed on Diamond Storm. So yeah, really, really good multipliers. She could get herself going, right, with those multipliers relatively easily as well, right? You got +2 over here, and then Fast Track 9, right? Relatively easy to max out ramming speed without even bringing a speed buffer. And then also Tough Cookie as well with Diamond Storm on swag bag. So yeah, she's pretty self-sufficient most time. Also after you mega her, you get Fuel Economy, which turns Diamond Storm into a 3-gauge move, or Stone Edge into a 2-gauge move. Because I mean, there are instances where you probably would want to use Stone Edge. For example, if you really need to like rush a certain unit down, whether it's for turn denials or just taking out the opponent right before they're about to sink, right? Then you could use Stone Edge there as well, which then Stone Edge turns into a 2-gauge move, right? So very, very good for gauges as unit. Her Meg also buffs her speed stat as well, which is nice, and then buffs attack stat. Obviously, the big downside over here is her main damaging move, Diamond Storm, is AoE, which again at the moment is not fantastic, right? For clearing stages fast because of the fact that it's hard to focus down one solitary opponent, obviously, because your damage gets cut in half, even though you'd have generally better total damage, right? But yeah, that is again one of the downsides of AoE, unfortunately. So yeah, that aside, she is pretty nice, right? Overall, I'd say. And again, Guzma's good. He's good. He's definitely not bad, right? He has some very, very funny nodes, but it works out well sometimes. Guzma, I'd say he's a bit hard to use. He's probably going to be a bit hard to use because there's a lot of things that have to go into your decision making, right, when using Guzma, that could lead to drastically different outcomes, right? Because Guzma's whole gimmick is you're missing hits, so your dynamic punch hits harder. Oh, which, by the way, update, we know how much the tenacity, these ranks are, right, buffed by. Each rank is buffed by 40%. So over here, 3 ranks, your next move, if you miss one, your next move gets buffed by 120%, right? So it's an overall 20% more damage, which sounds nice, but when you think about it, it's just like two 10% multipliers on like hitting 2 moves. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure if these stack, if you like miss 2 in a move, two in a row, miss 3 in a row. But I'm assuming it's going to, right? I mean, if it doesn't, then that's gonna be a disaster, right? If it doesn't stack, if you miss like two in a row and then it doesn't stack, and then you're just hitting for like one extra 120, right? Then you're losing so much damage, right? So I'm assuming it's going to stack, right? Hopefully. So there's that, and also if you do pick up Tenacity 1, that's an extra 10, or not 10%, extra 40% over here. So that turns it into 160%. So that does look a bit better, right? That definitely does look a bit better in comparison to 120%, right? So there's that, right? That's basically how that works. I'm pretty sure it doesn't apply to the sync move. I'm like 99.5% sure it's not going to apply to the sync move, just the regular moves. Here are some of my issues with Buzzwole. Extra hit is not good, right? The whole like thing behind dynamic punch and this whole like missing thing being good is you miss one, so the next one does more damage than you hitting both dynamic punches combined, right? If you use one extra hit, what happens is, for example, you dynamic punch, you miss, right? So you miss 100% damage, and then the next turn you dynamic punch and that one hits, you do 260% damage, right? The 100%, damage from the dynamic punch itself, and then 160. Oh yeah, 160 plus with the grid, right? And then you get the 160 from the extra 60% from the tenacity whatever thing, right? Tenacity 3. So that's, you're doing a total 160% or 260% across 2 turns, right? If you do use extra hit, what happens is you dynamic punch, you miss, you lose 100, you lose 100% damage. You extra hit, you lose another 100% damage because you're not doing damage that turn, right? And then you dynamic punch and then hit. So instead of doing 160% damage, because you do 260% damage, you take away 100% damage. So instead of doing, again, 160% damage, what you're doing is you're getting 260% on that one hit, but that's across 3 turns, so you're missing 200% damage, right? So you're only doing 60% damage, so it's worse than just hitting a dynamic punch straight up, right? Giving accuracy buffs, hitting dynamic punch straight up. So extra hit is, first of all, not very useful at all, right? And then second of all, you might get screwed over a lot of times, right? Because of your accuracy issues. And what I mean by that is, for example, if you need a KO on the next turn, right? If, for example, the opponent's whatever, right? The opponent's the mid is about to sink. They're gonna sink next turn. You need a KO this turn. Are you gonna roll the 50-50 on that accuracy and miss, and potentially miss, right? And if you potentially miss, then you're screwed. The opponent's gonna sink, right? If it's offense parameters, that's very, very likely gonna wipe out a lot of your units, including probably, Guzma, because his HP and defenses are not very, very good. Do you run that gamble, or do you go hammer arm, which does significantly less damage? So it's hard to gauge if that hammer arm is going to, is enough to take out the opponent, right? Same thing for if you're trying to deny one of the sides to get an extra, free turn for yourself, right? What if it misses? If it misses, then you lose the turn denial, right? So there are definitely some big gambles with Buzzwole here, right? But the return is good. The return is definitely good. Dynamic punch, if you do miss one or miss however many, again, depending on how the passive works, definitely is going to do solid damage, right? Definitely going to do really, really good damage over there. So yeah, it's a very risky unit. They should have done this for like Grimsby. That would have been fun. But yeah. Anyways, also the other really, really good thing about Guzma is this. just like Annie Lily, right? One click, you're at +6 attack, +3 crit. Does lower your defense, special defense a bit, which again does make that thing more risky, right? In terms of trying to finish off the mid before they throw a sync in here. So it's a very, very RNG unit. It's a gamble, right? Trying to use this guy. But if you are lucky, he could be very, very nice, right? Because he got a lot of good stuff on top of his big dynamic punches, right? You got stuff like Haymaker, Fuzzy Strike in there to be a bit more reliable damage output options, right? So those are definitely nice. Super Victory I like a lot, right? This is a very, very, very good passive. That's why, again, I'm not sure which one I like a bit more. Hilda is a bit more reliable, but Guzma is obviously much less reliable. But if you do, if you do get lucky, he could be very, very, very nice, right? He could definitely be very, very nice. So anyways, that's for this one, I guess. Hope you all enjoyed them, guys. Think in the comments down below. Like this video, start our channel for some more fun content. Again, we'll be summoning on Diantha later tonight, so tune in the stream for the Diantha summons. And I'll see you guys in the next one.